increased more now because of our ability to track them via satellite and airplane, but the actual severity and number of storms is not any greater. Weird. And what's more concerning is that the remedies being proposed by people like Gavin Newsom or Joe Biden or John Kerry or even others like AOC are actually worse than the current things that are happening now with like a regular V6 engine. This big push for electric cars, for what? They cost more. What's the benefit to that? Are we saving people's lives? No, not even that. Because the carbon emissions and the carbon footprint to make an EV and their batteries far exceeds what your average car will burn in its entire life. Plus, where the heck does all that electricity come from? I mean, we shut down a lot of our nuclear power plants in America, especially over in Europe. It comes from burning fossil fuels. You may feel nice with no tailpipe on your Tesla, but all you've done is export your carbon footprint to somewhere else. Of course, we want to take care of the environment, folks. I'm not saying that. I'm a big hunter. I love my time in the environment, but not at the expense of our economy or even our rights. So let's get serious. Instead of like slinging doomsday predictions, we should do this right. Joining me now to discuss, Mark Morano, former member of the Senate Environmental and Public Works Committee and the founder of ClimateDepot.com. Mark, I suspect you have something to say about this because if it's up, it's climate change. If it's down, it's climate change. If it's normal, it's climate change.
Yeah, this has been going on now for decades. I mean, I started attending these United Nations climate summits 2002 in Africa and South America and Asia. They're all over the world at exotic locations. They made the decision in 2006 or 7 summit in Bali, Indonesia, that they were going to start talking about climate change instead of global warming. Why? Because then they could blame, as you so eloquently laid out, Carl, every weather event on climate. And they're at the point now where they've weaponized weather events. They're weaponizing summer weather. A hot July is now unprecedented and we're all going to die. They've gone after, as you mentioned, hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, wildfires. But if you actually look at the data, if you look even in the United Nations reports and even in the National Climate Assessment by the federal government, you see that those extreme weathers that they're so worried about are on declining trends over decades, either no trend or declining trend. And this is what they've done. They've weaponized it. So every weather event is a campaign cause, like the article you showed, to reduce emissions. We need electric cars. We need to stop eating meat. We need to get rid of gas stoves. We need to kill pizza ovens in New York City, or the climate's going to get us. This is not science. This is propaganda from beginning to end.
Well, but that's the bigger thing, Mark, is like, this is data. This is not disputable stuff. Like, I was actually looking to see if I could find charts that are like, maybe this one doesn't tell the whole story. No, there's no arguing with this. This is numerical data. Where are they, like, first off, how are we as a society falling for it? And second off, who the heck is Al Gore think he's talking to?
Okay, the reason we as a society fall for this is the same reason we fell for COVID lockdowns and mask mandates and vaccines and allowing churches and closures and school and backyard barbecues and medical fear. And that's why Greta Thunberg's most famous quote is, "I want you to be afraid." They don't want us to think rationally. So they're using that fear to get us to do things we would never consent to otherwise. Now, in terms of the data, you can go to Biden's EPA. That's right. Joe Biden's administration's EPA will show you the 1930s heat wave index. This chart is still up, showing you that they were about 10 times or more hotter by statewide and city temperature records than anything we're contemplating today. You can go to the first United Nations climate report and show the medieval warm period of about 900 to 1300 AD, much warmer than today. You know what they did on both now? They had a campaign cause to say we have to get rid of the medieval warm period. When I worked in the U.S. Senate Environment Committee, we had a scientist testify that other UN scientists were trying to get rid of this, and lo and behold, they did. They erased the medieval warm period. And now we have a scientist out of Texas saying we need to get rid of this EPA 1930s heat wave. They're willing to do anything because this is a campaign cause, and that's the way they approach it. Eliminate negative information that's off message.
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking. Mark, where do people find out more about all this info when they want to argue with their in-laws over the holiday dinner table?
This is another thing. You mentioned Google. Google and the United Nations have a partnership. The United Nations announced last fall they own the science and they partnered with Google to skew the returns. You go to climatedepot.com, look up EPA chart. You can see it. There's another chart from NOAA showing 500 million years, and we're in one of the coolest periods of the last 500 million years. It's incredible. This is all available via Joe Biden's presidential administration. These charts and data is still available.
And they still lie to us. Mark Morano, I know you don't lie to us. I appreciate you being here, sir.
Thank you, Carl. Appreciate it.
All right. What a great